The information in this module is very important, even though it's quite brief as far as the assignment is pretty short, the reading is pretty short, but the information is really important. And so what it's talking about is the long history the Catholic Church has with the issue of social justice. And in Module 6, we talked about Rerum Novarum, which was written by Pope Leo XIII, and it was in response to Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto and the treatment of the worker in the workplace during the Industrial Revolution. And once that was written, the Communist Manifesto and the encyclical Rerum Novarum, the Catholic Church has become very involved in speaking out for the rights of people across the globe. And so in the reading that you'll do, it will kind of outline how this has unfolded in 3 different stages. The first stage starts with Rerum Novarum, and it was in the context of the Industrial Revolution. And stage 2 was after World War II, and then stage 3 is from 1971 till now. And as you read about the different encyclicals that were written in those different stages, it will give you a brief description of different encyclicals and pastoral letters that were written. But the common denominator is kind of what's important, and that's what we would call the 7 themes of Catholic social teaching. And so these themes are listed on a slide for you, and I just want to kind of address each of those themes. So the first one is the dignity of the human person, and it recognizes that man is the only creature created by God that is made in the image and likeness of God and entitled to, inherent dignity. And this theme, the dignity of the person, is the foundation for all the other themes. It starts with dignity. Dignity is given kind of an important position here in this list because we have to treat every human being with the dignity that they're entitled to as given to them by God because we are made in God's image and likeness. There have been many examples of people not being treated with dignity. One that I read a while back that I thought was really terrible and sad was this elderly man who had a daughter in California and a daughter in New York, and so the daughter in California put him on a train to head to New York. When the train arrived in New York, the father wasn't there on the train. And so in a panic, the daughter started contacting the railroad and trying to figure out where the grandfather might be. And as she unraveled this, she discovered that somewhere on the train ride between California and some middle state, the grandfather, again, who was elderly, probably early stages of dementia, had some sort of accident. And by that I mean, that he wet his pants. And so the train personnel kicked him off the train in this random train station, and there he was wandering aimlessly instead of them helping him. And this is a great example of someone being treated without dignity and respect. The second one is community and participation. And this is kind of like that adage where, no man is an island. We're all part of a community. We're part of the global community. We're part of more local communities. We're part of a family unit. And all of those communities have value, and all of those help us understand and know God better. We get to know God better through the people we meet in community. So community is something to be valued, and it is, essential to the Christian life. But also the family community in particular is one that needs to be protected, and, that we need to make this kind of the most important thing next to God, and that we always put our family first. Rights and responsibilities is talking about the basic rights that people have, and this could include the right to food, clothing, shelter. It could include the right to love. Some people would argue that this should include a right to health care, access to employment, some of these other basic needs, a right to equality. And of course, different countries see this a little bit different. The United Nations, after World War II, wrote a document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, And there they list 29 rights that should be afforded all people. The fourth one is the preferential option for the poor. And with this theme, what we're essentially saying is that we need to give the poor special attention. We need to give them more time, more energy. And this would be akin to if you had someone in your family who was sick, and suddenly everyone in your family is giving more attention to that person because they need more attention. This is how we should treat the poor. And we should also recognize poverty as more than just material poverty. There's spiritual poverty, there's emotional, moral poverty, and those are areas that need extra attention. Number 5, the dignity of work and the rights of the worker. There's a few things that have been written about more than this in the social encyclicals. And again, this started with Rerum Novarum, but it recognizes that within the ability we have to work, that helps form and shape our identity. It helps form and shape our self-esteem. And so having a job, and one where you're treated respectfully and equally, is very important. And again, everyone should have fair pay. Everyone should have good working conditions that are healthy. And so this theme argues for that. Number 6 is solidarity. This could be synonymous with unity, but solidarity means that we are part of the human family and that we imagine ourselves kind of walking a mile in someone else's moccasins, if you will. And we try to approach things empathetically and imagine what life is like for other people. An example of solidarity might be if you were sitting on a board of people who were trying to plan for some low-income housing. If you were practicing solidarity, you would invite people who are going to be the recipients of this housing to the table and let them be part of the discussion and treat them with the same equal dignity and respect. And finally, care for God's creation is the last of the themes. Again, this is kind of the common denominator of all these different encyclicals. And Laudato Si was written by Pope Francis very recently, which is kind of the foremost one today as far as what encyclicals have to say. And basically, it tells us that in the book of Genesis, from the very beginning, we were told to be caretakers of the earth. This doesn't mean that we could take advantage of the earth and not care about it and just use it for our own benefit, but we have to take care of it. And this is one of God's creations. We always kind of assume as humans that we're the centerpiece of creation, and yet that might not be true, and there's many other things God created, and because we have souls and because we have intelligence, it's our job to take care of those other parts of creation. Subsidiarity is not on this list, and I don't know if I don't think the book mentions it, but this is also kind of a topic that's brought up several times in the encyclicals. And this is the idea that we as a first world country should not take over the product and processing of something that is a natural resource of a developing country and take that product and that opportunity for economy or economic growth away from a country that's developing. There's also a slide that's called the 2 feet of social justice. This is not in your textbook either, but this is talking about direct service and social action as the two things that need to happen.